And welcome back to another school board video on Ben's Rant Nation. Once again, I'll be speaking about the East Noble School Board in Kendallville, Indiana. For those of you not familiar with the makeup of the East Noble School Board, meet Faye Kline. She is a current East Noble School Board member who's elected in 2022. According to her voting record on that school board, she's also a member of the radical left. Now, for those of you familiar with school board politics in general, that's probably not a big surprise for you. That's just par for the course. This is literally the very reason that the partisan school board bill, Indiana Senate Bill 287, was signed into law earlier this year. Faye Kline is the poster child for this legislation. So, if this type of situation is simply par for the course, or business as usual, then why would this be my video topic for today? Well, that has to do with the way she was elected in 2022. That's the problem. You see, that's the part that's not so common. How many on the far left would pretend to be a member of the Christian right just to win a school board seat? This reeks of desperation, fraud, and quite frankly, mental illness. Anyone familiar with school board politics knows that the standard playbook for the left is to pretend to be nonpartisan during their campaigns, then do the opposite once elected. Faye Kline flipped the script. She did the whole thing in reverse, and it actually worked for her. During her campaign, she promised to do the following: end wokeness, remove pornographic content from minors, and make books age appropriate again. Protect girls' sports by keeping biological males out of them. End political indoctrination. She also campaigned on communication with parents and transparency. After promising all these things, she actually pursued the church vote and got exactly that. Entire congregations in that area actually voted for her after she made those promises. Once she got elected, she did none of those things. In fact, she actually fought for and voted in favor of many of those things that are on the radical left wish list. So what exactly did she do? Well, one of the first things she did was she voted in favor of a pornographic book called A Stolen Life. She voted for this book to be available for minors within the school district. In case you're not familiar with the book, it details an 11-year-old girl who's held captive, repeatedly raped, and even impregnated. Now, it's important to note that this book has already been removed in the majority of school districts in the state of Indiana, as well as several other states. However, in red Kendallville, not only was it not removed for minors, it was actually voted in, approved, protected by Faye Kline herself to allow this book to be available for underage minors.
So I would ask the first question: what data do you have to support your belief that a sexual assault victim will benefit from reading this book?
I don't think that's pertinent.
It is. You're not a psychologist. So.
This is addressing her specifically on her reason.
I answered this question. I don't think it's pertinent.
Okay.
Wait a second.
Okay,
Wait a second.
Mr. Carpenter,
Your
it's not yours.
Your vote has determined what goes in curriculum. So how is this not pertinent?
It is not a curriculum book.
What about the absolutely true die of a part-time ended? You voted on that, if you want to talk about that. So your vote does impact curriculum.
His question was about A Stolen Life.
Right, and which is in the
not a
library, which
curriculum
children have
book.
access to.
I told him his question was not pertinent.
I have made efforts to communicate with Mr. Anderson and Mrs. Klein as well.
No, you have not. Facebook is not an effort to communicate with me.
I do have
school
on
email.
Messenger where we've
Facebook Messenger is not an appropriate place to have these conversations.
Established.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now, if you happen to think it's controversial to make books age appropriate, then my response to you is this. In polite society, we need rules, man. If there is no age requirement for pornography, then where does that logic end? Are you willing to be consistent? then also take away age requirements for things like voting, joining the military. What about purchasing a firearm? What about purchasing tobacco or alcohol products? Should those also not be age appropriate? If that's your argument, please be consistent. Making anything age appropriate isn't a left or a right issue. It's called common sense. This is something that over 90% of Americans agree with. So if you're against that, you're basically on the fringe of society. Next, the superintendent of East Noble, Teresa Gramo, published a student handbook earlier this year, which does not protect girls' sports from biological males participating in them. All despite this being illegal in the state of Indiana. Faye Kline, in case you were wondering, she did not speak out about this. Instead, she stayed silent and obedient. Also, despite her campaign promise of communication and transparency to the parents, she actually cut off communication with those very same parents. Look at all these Facebook messages that she had with Brent Carpenter when he was helping her on her campaign. Looks like a little bit of hypocrisy to me. As soon as she starts voting, nearly hand in glove with the other radical leftists on their school board, suddenly she can't communicate anymore. Wonder why? I could go on and on. However, the real question is why? Why is she voting hand in glove with the other radical leftists on her school board? I do have a possible explanation. You see, Faye Kline and her husband are in a little bit of legal trouble. I'll let AI Faye explain it to you herself. Take it away, Faye.
Faye Kline, a current East Noble School Board member, is facing serious allegations of fraud upon the court and perjury under oath in a civil case before the Noble Circuit Court. These accusations emerged during a challenging period for the East Noble School Board, which has been beleaguered by a recent resignation. The allegations are detailed in a motion to reconsider order and notice of fraud upon the court, filed by plaintiff through her counsel, Ahrensberger Law. The motion centers on defendant Faye Kline's testimony and a sales invoice presented during a bench trial. The case, cause number 57C01-2404-CC-299, involves as plaintiff against defendants Klein Fence Installation, LLC, Ben Klein, and Faye Kline. A bench trial was held on July 10, 2025, and subsequently, on July 17, 2025, the court issued an order directing the defendants to pay the plaintiff $14,000. The initial order did not award attorney fees to the plaintiff. According to the motion during the trial, defendant Faye Kline testified under oath that a specific sales invoice from Alpha Building Center, Inc. was a true and accurate sales invoice for costs she had allegedly incurred. This document was then submitted into evidence as Defendant's Exhibit A. The plaintiff's counsel states that this was the first time the plaintiff had seen this particular sales invoice. Following the trial, plaintiff's counsel contacted Alpha Building Center, Inc. for verification. The motion includes an affidavit from Kyle Ulrich, CEO of Alpha Building Center, Inc., who reportedly verified under oath that the sales invoice submitted to the court during the bench trial was not generated by Alpha Building Center, Inc. Furthermore, Ulrich is said to have provided a copy of the actual sales invoice from Alpha Building Center, Inc., along with a detailed list of discrepancies between the two invoices. These discrepancies allegedly include incorrect dates, customer information, color details, and certain items missing from the invoice submitted by Faye Kline during the trial. Plaintiff's counsel has expressed great concern about the fraud and untruth that defendant Faye Kline has purported on the court and in this case. The motion specifically asserts that Faye Kline committed perjury while under oath by testifying to the accuracy of the sales invoice, arguing this constitutes a clear fraud upon the court.
So now that you know the extent of her legal issues, consider this. It turns out the Noble County Circuit Judge, Christopher Jansen, is apparently presiding over Faye Kline's legal troubles. Christopher Jansen is the nephew of the East Noble School Board President, Doug Jansen. Coincidentally, Faye Kline's voting record has been nearly identical to his voting record. Conflict of interest much? I'll let you decide. Finally, what we often see from the radical left is violence and intimidation when they don't get their way. During a June 2024 school board meeting that was still in progress at the time, Brett Carpenter, along with his daughter and Greg Rice, decided to step outside of the school board meeting for a little bit. Next thing you know, Faye's husband, Ben Klein, follows them outside during the school board meeting and starts trying to intimidate them for having the audacity to question his wife, Comrade Faye. So as a result, Greg Rice started recording, and this is what went down.
That's what you just compared it to.
Greg Rice.
Let's get this all on video.
Listen, don't be afraid. Why are you afraid to talk? If you were right, you wouldn't be afraid and run away. Actually, if you actually could defend your position, you wouldn't run and hide. That proves that you know you're wrong. See, there you go. You have to hide. You have to run.
The police officer who was at the school board meeting, Sydney Schwartzer, saw this entire interaction. She later informed Brett Carpenter and Greg Rice that she felt the need to call another officer to ensure their safety as they were leaving the meeting that night. Nevertheless, after the school board meeting, Ben Klein followed Brett Carpenter and his daughter out of the parking lot and almost all the way home. You see, this is what they do. Threats and intimidation when nothing else works. That's all I got for right now. Stay informed, folks.